Now, Lebanon's Prime Minister-designate Mustafa Adib has announced his resignation after his efforts to line up a non-partisan cabinet ran into trouble, particularly over who would run the finance ministry. In a televised address on Saturday, Mr. Adib said he was stepping down from the task of forming the government following a meeting with President Michel Aoun. Mr. Adib, a former ambassador to Berlin, was picked on August the 31st to form a cabinet after the last government led by Hassan Diab resigned from the Beirut port blast on August the 4th that killed some 200 people and left thousands homeless. But the formation of a new government was hit by a logjam over the demand of two dominant Shia parties, Iran-backed Hezbollah and its ally, the Amal movement, to name Shia ministers in the cabinet. And Global Affairs analyst Collins Nweke joins me on the news to discuss this. Thank you so much for joining us on The World Now. What do you think, or why do you think it's difficult for the Lebanon's Prime Minister-designate to achieve the task of forming the government?
Thank you, Ibrahim, for having me. Well, the fall of the short-lived government of Prime Minister Adib wouldn't actually come as a surprise to people who have been watching Lebanon. It fell, simply put, on the back of sectarian politics that has dominated Lebanon since the civil war of 1975 to 1990. But in this case, I think the reasons are, clearer in the sense that the Shiite Muslim group Amal and Hezbollah, have actually, flexed their muscle in the process of, forming a cabinet, specifically appointing ministers, and to be even more specific, Minister of Finance. So the Prime Minister-designate Adib has not been able to find accommodation within these groups, and he's made an assessment of the situation and felt that the stumbling block ahead of him is insurmountable, and so there was no point, continuing on that path, and so he decided to throw in the towel.
Well, the former Prime Minister Hassan Diab had also described Lebanon as a system of corruption deeply rooted in all the functions of the state. If all this continues, what then is the respite for the Lebanese people?
The Lebanese people, I am afraid to say, have quite bad days, bad months, and perhaps bad years still ahead of them. The currency has lost tremendous value over the last, couple of months, and going back to about a year. Negotiations with the International Monetary Fund for, billions of dollars of aid to help rejig the economy also failed. Now, it was being expected under the roadmap that French President Emmanuel Macron had put together. It was being expected that once a government is formed, that they will be able to, access billions of dollars of international aid that would have helped them to, get the economy up and running again, because the economy is not collapsing, it has totally collapsed. Now, it is expected that the French roadmap will not be abandoned. At least the Adib government, Adib himself, has actually appealed to politicians and indeed whoever is going to be his successor, not to abandon the French roadmap nor the goodwill that Emmanuel Macron brings to the table. So I believe that they might find a way, some accommodation going forward.
Well, altogether, all these are happening during these extraordinary times. How has the coronavirus pandemic made matters worse for the Lebanon people as well?
Well, you know that, experience tells us from what we have now known of the coronavirus, that in places where the healthcare infrastructure, healthcare systems are, well developed, it is indeed easier to manage the cases when they occur. But prevention, of course, is a major point in prevention in terms of social distancing and so on and so forth. The Lebanese people have other priorities, and so it has been very, very difficult and perhaps even impossible for them to keep all the protocols, and so it is devastating them. The government is not in the financial situation to provide succor that is needed. The healthcare infrastructure is has been run to the ground, and so yes, it is devastating for the people of Lebanon. Of course, if you add the explosion that took place that reignited all of these bad situation, you have a clearer picture of the hell that the people of Lebanon are living in right now.
Well, before I let you go, let's try to brainstorm on this. Lebanon officially recognizes 18 religious communities: 4 Muslim, 12 Christian, the Druze sect, and Judaism. The 3 main political offices are also divided among the 3 biggest communities. So with all of these happening, do you think Lebanon crisis will remain intractable for a long time?
There are signs that it will be so. As a matter of fact, the attempt at the table now is to form a government of national unity, what some have referred to as a rainbow government that actually takes all of these, specific Lebanese idiosyncrasies into consideration in the forming of the government. Other school of thoughts have also said that Lebanese government that has to succeed would have to be colorblind in terms of religion, in terms of clan, and in terms of tribe. Now, people would have to be appointed on the basis of merit. Now, if they do that, the chances of success is brighter. I stand somewhere in the middle because I believe that you cannot ignore the sectarianism that is, endemic in Lebanon if you want a lasting solution to the crisis, to the problem. And I do have the feelings that once they are able to find a prime minister in the character and in the profile of Ambassador Adib, but much more resilient and much more acceptable. I think if we, combines merit with a little bit of, clanism, there might be in a position to find a government that can stand the test of time.
Well, our global affairs analyst Collins Mweke, thank you so much for your insight into this matter. Thank you so much for speaking with us.
Thank you, Ibrahim, for having me.